And welcome back, everyone, to the Naruto Kids. How strong would they be? So, obviously, today, if you've seen the title, it's Kakuzu today. And I made a decision I'm going to rotate back to our original core Konoha guys after this. Why? Because the rest of the Akatsuki, there's not a lot to do with them. Maybe Sasori, because I don't believe I've done Sasori, or maybe I have. I can double check right now if I've done Sasori or not. 1 second. But we've done Conan at least once. We've done Kasame, who Kasame's actually wasn't as interesting as I thought he could be, apart from the massive chakra reserves and possible use of Samahade. And then we're not doing in fact, we're not really doing any Uchiha beyond Sasuke because, quite frankly, it would just be rinse and repeat. So let me see, Sasori. Did I do Sasori already for this series? Let's find out. Did I do? No, I did. Okay, I haven't done Sasori yet. All right, so maybe I'll do Sasori next week, and then that's when I'll swap back. Because otherwise, we've done Orochimaru, who was originally who has been a part of the Akatsuki. We've done Conan, who's definitely got one of the more unique, interesting abilities to transfer over to a kid. And we've done Dataro with Explosion Release. So. And Zetsu's not one we can really do that series with, so I can't do Zetsu. And Nagato, despite being an Uzumaki, doesn't bring anything to the table because the Rinnegan isn't naturally his. So, okay, Kakuzu. Let's talk about Kakuzu. Kakuzu, surprisingly, is not all that unique, except for the fact that he stole his village's forbidden technique of the Grudge Fear. Now, the Grudge Fear essentially kind of morphs your body. We don't know exactly how it does it, but it morphs your body into this weird ragdoll thing. His body is segmented. He's got all these seams. These black, almost sentient, but not quite. He's just controlling them. Threads exist within them, allowing him to reattach his limbs, sew things back together. It's how Dataro was able to get his limbs back. He sewed them together. But more importantly, this grants him a pseudo level of immortality. So essentially, he can steal the hearts of individuals and use them as his own hearts. And when a heart's about to, is getting close to failure, he just replaces a heart. He's over 91 when we meet him in the series. He even claimed to have fought the first Hokage at least once. And some people mistake that for him saying, I was the one who killed the first Hokage. No, that's not what he said. He fought the first Hokage. Difference. But beyond that, he can use the chakra elements of the hearts he takes. So that's why he had access to all 5 elemental transformations. Now, why he never went around to find, say, a Kikagenkai user, back in the day when they were more prevalent, say, not necessarily more prevalent, like a lava release user or a ice release UK user when they were still more available. Or like a storm release user, elemental, because there's multiple elemental transformations out there. But maybe only so few users. Maybe he just never came across one to use. Like he probably tried to take the first Hokage's heart, but it just didn't work. So I don't know. All I do know is that we would have to assume whatever the child of Kakuzu would be, he would pass on the knowledge of the Earth Grudge Fear to his child. Because that's really the only thing he can bring to the table, apart from lots and lots of strategy and years of experience to teach the kid. So the kid would certainly be well learned. So I only got 4 options here because he is an older guy. I didn't want to go with any of the younger gen this time around, even though they're older in Boruto, but that would just make him older in this series as well. So he'd be what, about 10 years older? So he'd be over 100. Either way. But I got one really old. He's still older than Chio, surprisingly. But Chio was at least in a younger picture of Chio. He's still younger than Chio, just not by a huge margin, I don't think. Chio is at least in her 70s, I think. How old is Chio? Or was Chio, I suppose is a better way to put it. Chio. Let's see here now. Chio. Naruto, let's try that. Because Chio apparently is a fertilizer of some kind too. Naruto. Okay, Granny Chio, there she is. How old is Granny Chio now? Granny Chio lived to be... Oh, excuse me. Oh, I apologize for that. That came out of nowhere. Let's see. Age, she lived to be 73. So Kakuzu had a good almost decade on her. But this actually means that within the realm of age range, they'd be a suitable couple in theory. They could be like if you dialed them back. Let's see, what's the most reasonable? 40 years, which sounds like a lot, and it is, but that's how old these guys are. He'd be then 51, she'd be 33, so it wouldn't be anywhere near as an inappropriate relationship as it would be for others. But what does Chio bring to the table to bring for a kid? Well, we actually can kind of see a little bit of that with her grandson, Sasori. Sasori isn't directly her child, but she does kind of look at him a little bit as her own. And he learned specifically the puppet arts from her. So, but beyond that too, she also has a very solid knowledge in things like poisons, which is partly where Sasori learned his ability for poison as well. And the ability, I believe, to, well, no, she doesn't have the ability to turn puppets, humans into puppets, alter their corpses, all that. But Sasori did. And he didn't learn that from her, though. That's something he developed, I think, on his own. But she still is a master puppet user and a very well-versed medical ninja as well. So, what would a child between them look like? This is kind of interesting because in theory, you could combine the Grudge Fear with puppetry. You could literally have the tendrils of your Grudge Fear come out of your body and each individual one hold a string. So right out the gate, you have a very unique scenario in this case, where you could literally do Sasori's 100 puppets, maybe even to a greater extent, depending on how many tentacles and how well you're able to space out your attention span. Because Sasori controlling 100 puppets is actually no small thing, because he's simultaneously controlling every one of them. But there's also the idea that, in theory, if you could combine puppetry with Earth Grudge Fear, this kid might be able to surpass their father in terms of the amount of hearts they can store. Because in theory, the heart could be with possibly some preservation seal jutsus. I'm sure those exist. And Chio does have knowledge on sealing. I believe she's actually the one who did the sealing on the Chicago. As shitty as it was. But yeah, the idea that maybe through some uses of seals, you could actually have this kid store God knows how many hearts into how many puppets. And if they lose it, summon a puppet, transfer the heart back into you, and keep going. And maybe they'd have a storage seal of each individual element, like which element is stored in, like which puppet is stored in what scroll, things along those lines. This really could be the marriage of two worlds here. This could be, now that being said, for this kid to be using their powers like this kid would have to be pretty effed up, admittedly. So, I'm not saying that this necessarily would be their kid and the route this kid would go, but it's not where it could go. Then moving on, we go to one of his Akatsuki teammates, Konan again. Now, Konan, we didn't actually talk about Kakuzu, because I just didn't think of the need at the time, but now you'd have someone using Grudge Fear, but also capable of morphing their body into paper. So, for example, could they morph the Grudge Fear tentacles into paper? Debatable. I think see, this is one where the powers still could complement each other. For example, a paper body means that even their hearts could be basically protected. So that is certainly on the table. And then using elemental techniques, assuming they have, like, say, all 5 hearts, using the paper combined with Grudge Fear and the hearts and putting the mass on to make it more maneuverable as fighters when using their elemental attacks. It's an interesting idea, to say the least. I think this is one that's a little bit harder to kind of pin down, though, in terms of just what exactly the full capabilities are, but I leave it to you to guess what they might be. Then we got May, who's been showing up recently on these videos. Now this, you have their base, assuming that they're keeping their standard heart, you now have someone who has access theoretically to all 5 elements, but more or less would just probably hang on to lightning and wind release hearts, because they already have naturally water, earth, and fire. Add on to the fact that they also have their elemental Kekkei Genkai Jutsu, and yeah, you essentially just have a much more upgraded version of Kakuzu. That's what you have. You just have an upgraded Kakuzu. Last but not least, though, you'd have Tsunade. Now, this one is where it gets a little bit more interesting, I think. Let's just move you down here, and there you go. Tsunade's got a bit more room to shine. Because obviously Tsunade is both Senju and Uzumaki on her family side. So I think it's on her father's side, if I'm not mistaken. So now you have the vitality and chakra reserves of a Senju Uzumaki combination with someone with Grudge Fear. So already huge chakra reserves. But then you add the physical strength of Tsunade, and you now have someone who can literally just tear up the entire battlefield if they want to by going into that whole Grudge Fear monster mode. And then beyond that, if you go with the healing jutsus, the healing capabilities, you literally have someone that if they activate the 100 hand seal or Genesis Rebirth, either way, whatever it's called, you then have someone who, even if their hearts are destroyed, they're just going to grow back. Like, there's no way to stop this individual because now they're firing off all the elemental juices they want. Their hearts are perfectly safe because as long as that technique is available, they will not die. Like, their hearts can't be destroyed. Even though they're not technically a part of their body, it's still, or naturally a part of their body, it's still a part of their body. So, yeah, you would have one of the scariest physical fighters in Naruto, I think. Someone who's got a combination of Grudge Fear, 5 different chakra elements, and Tsunade's 100 healing. Oh, that's scary. But that's just my thoughts. I only did 4 because it just felt right for this one. What do you think, though? Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next one.